This update is a game changer for how you build rules and automate your campaign's optimization process. You can now use campaign start date and different date ranges in rule conditions, which means you can catch specific performance changes and immediately take actions all on autopilot. Think of the testing phase of a campaign. You let it run for a few days, and if it shows no improvements or promising signs, you shut it down. Well, now the rule does it. Or consider when running on a high-performing site that suddenly stops working, or even for when you run on a really tight margin and want to be able to catch a dip in performance before it's too late and you've lost any profits you've generated so far. In other words, you can now build super smart rules that analyze changes and take actions just like you would. Let's go over a few examples together and see how it works. Let's create a rule that pauses a publisher site that was performing well but suddenly stopped working. We create a new block publisher rule, specify a name for the rule, look back at the last 7 days by default, specify the amount of ad spend we're looking for the conditions to be true. In this case, we're testing against the 2 times the payout of the campaign. Then we're comparing the ROI of the site from day 5 to day 2. If it is greater than 10%. Also, we're comparing the same metric, the ROI, but this time from day 1 to day 0, which means between today and yesterday. If it is less than negative 10%, we're executing this rule every 1 hour. So if it is less than negative 10%, the rule is going to pause the publisher site and call it done with that publisher. Another interesting example is the rule of automatically pausing new Facebook ad sets if the ROI isn't positive within the first 4 days of running the ad set. So we're looking at the last 5 days by default. We're specifying the first condition to be the start date of the ad set, in which case it is start date equals current day minus 4, and this makes the rule fully dynamic. No matter what the launch date of the ad set is, it will always look back at the last 4 days. We're specifying the first condition to look at the ROI, which says if the ROI between day 4 and day 2 is worse than negative 50%, and the ROI for today and yesterday is again worse than negative 30%, the rule will pause the ad set. So we're specifying the campaign and we're specifying the execution frequency. So every 1 hour, this rule will look back at the last 5 days and different date ranges of the ROI for the ad sets of the campaign that we have specified, and pause an ad set if the conditions are true. Another interesting example is the one of increasing ad set budget if the ROI is stable and positive. So we're looking back at the last 4 days of the ad set, and we're checking if the ROI between day 5 and 2 is greater than 20%, and also we're checking if the ROI for yesterday this time is greater than 20%. And because Facebook likes to have a bare minimum of conversions per week, we're looking at the last 6 days for Facebook conversions to be at least 60 or greater than 60. Normally, it would require like 50 conversions per week, but the more it is, the better it is. So here we're also specifying the time when we want the check to happen. So the check will happen every day, 12 a.m. according to the ad account time zone. And we're combining this with the execution frequency of every 1 hour. So in other words, what this rule will do is that it will look at the last few days of the performance of the ad set. It will look at yesterday's performance of the ad set if the ROI is positive, and will increase the budget by 50% of the current budget up to a maximum of $500 per day if these conditions are true. As you can see, we're practically automating the process of comparing performance changes of a matrix, then taking actions when all the conditions are true. Give it a go with your own rules, and if you need help, just drop us a line at support@theoptimizer.io.